tons of great football stories, but we're talking about Antwaan Randle-El, who was up on the ballot for the 10th year on the College Football Hall of Fame. And Mark was explaining the politics, I guess, of sorts of that situation. But at some point you would think his numbers, man, they're just freaky. They are what they are. You can't deny them. He did what he did. And it's like, how do you keep a guy like that out?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to imagine they would. I don't think. I think eventually it will happen. There's always a lot of good players. I mean, I've seen the list of some of the players that are coming in there. But again, you have to look at it as what they did in college. This is the College Football Hall of Fame. This isn't the NFL Hall of Fame. And what they did in college. I think you have to totally separate that. And he was a much better college quarterback than many NFL All-Pros, no doubt. For his all-around game, there's no doubt about that.
Dustin?
Yeah, well, I was going to ask in the recruiting process, and it's changed so much over the course of even like 20 years with you have sites like Rivals.com, 247 Sports, ESPN. I'm curious to get your take when you're I'm not ever going to say recruiting was easier, but was it easier back then because maybe you could find a diamond in the rough somewhere, you had a hunch on a guy and you didn't have everybody having access to it? Or is it easier now because now it's compiled on 13 different websites as to who's who, and everybody has access to all the same players? I'm interested to get your take and how you've seen recruiting change over the last 25, 30 years.
Oh, it has changed. I think the internet and social media have made things change, but it was still hard to hide. No, everybody knew who Antwaan was. And we were fortunate enough that Curtis Randle-El, his older brother, had signed with us the year before. It was the year before I got here. And Buck Sewer, who was our running back coach, was recruiting the Chicago area and recruited Curtis and had made the initial overtures into Antwaan. Well, when I got here, Buck transitioned from an on-the-field role of coaching our running backs to become the director of football operations in an off-field role. So I kind of was able to jump on Buck's coattails for that, taking the lead of the recruiting to Antwaan. But certainly Buck laid all the groundwork for that. But it was still not easy because Antwaan was a quarterback. He was playing in the wishbone, but he was a terrific football player, and he was he loved Indiana. His parents, Curtis and Jackie, and I've been in their homes many times while recruiting Antwaan, and he was, they really liked Coach Mallory. They loved who Coach Mallory was, what he was all about. And I can remember we played at Illinois, and we're playing at Champaign, and 7 of us got into the small plane, the university plane that we had that day, and we flew up to Midway and then rented cars, and we recruited all day and went to high school games up in the Chicago area, and then drove down to Champaign afterwards and met the team then Friday night. So I did my thing, and then the game I wanted to see, because it was my area. I was responsible for all the Chicago area. I assigned the game. So I went to see Antwaan play. They were playing at Lockport, and I was watching him play, and got done. And next morning, we were all sitting there at the pregame meal, and with Coach Mallory, all the coaches, and Coach Mal went around the table and just kind of asked everybody, well, where'd you go? Who'd you go see? And he came to me, and he said, who'd you go see, Mark? And I won't do my Bill Mallory impression. Everybody does one. And I said, Coach, I said, told him where I went. And then I said, and I saw Antwaan play. What'd you think? I did my little Bill Mallory there. He said, what'd you think? I said, Coach, I said, if Antwaan were in this room right now having our pregame meal, not only would he be our starting quarterback, but he would be the best football player in this room. And he looked at me and he said, huh. That's all he did. that reaction is a Bill Mallory reaction, but it was kind of a positive reaction. But Antwaan was a fabulous player. He did everything. The only other guy that he's the best high school football player I've ever seen.
Here we go. This is a story I've been wanting, because I think I know where you're going, and this is a story I've wanted to go to. This is great.
He's the best high school football player I've ever seen. Not big. Probably, he was listed, what did we list him at? 5'11" and 5'10". He was probably 5'9" and a half. Antwaan was not a big guy, but the only other guy who did everything Antwaan did as quarterback, punter, punt returner, safety, everything, was earlier probably this was 96. So this was probably 6 years earlier. I was coaching at VMI. And I recruited down in the Tidewater area, and I went to see Hampton Bethel play. And they had a wishbone quarterback who was a little bit bigger than Antwaan, probably about 6 foot, maybe 6'1", but just as fearless, just as fierce, and just as tough a football player in every aspect of it. And his name was Allen Iverson. And Allen Iverson was Antwaan Randle-El 6 years earlier. And Allen Iverson was and we were running the wishbone at VMI. No, Allen Iverson was not a VMI candidate, believe me. But I had to go see this wishbone quarterback, and he was just dynamite. He was just incredible football player, and a little bit bigger than Antwaan. Obviously, Allen Iverson was, but every bit as competitive. And that competitive spirit that Allen Iverson played with in the NBA, and the fierceness and the fearlessness he would play, of taking it to the hole and getting the crap knocked out of him, was part of that football aspect of it. But those two guys were pretty incredible, and I would compare Antwaan to him. Was not easy to get Antwaan. It was definitely a team effort. I'd come back and Antwaan. One of the reasons we got Antwaan for two reasons. The first reason was, one, he wanted to be a quarterback, and not everybody was going to recruit him as a quarterback. Colorado wanted him as a wide receiver. Illinois wanted him as a defensive back. Nebraska didn't want him at all, and he'd have gone to Nebraska. That's where he wanted to go. But they had, they were running the option, and that was, they had Scott Frost at the time, and they had Eric Crouch later on, probably the same time as Antwaan, who actually, won the Heisman Trophy. But Antwaan wanted to go to Nebraska, but he wanted to be a quarterback. So the only two people that were recruiting him as a quarterback were us and Ohio University, because Ohio University was running I-option football. And, we were going to recruit him as quarterback because he was a game changer there. And that was one. And two, he wanted to play basketball. And our basketball helped us get him. And he liked Coach Mallory, and actually committed to Coach Mallory before Coach had gotten fired, and then Coach got fired. I was the only member of the staff that had carried over. Obviously, Buck was too, as director of football operations. So the two of us were people that he had in mind. He didn't know Cam, but I had enlisted at that time already Dan Dockich to recruit him, and Dan and I were neighbors. We lived 3 doors down, and drank a lot of beer together. And of course, we knew each other for a long time from the region. He's from Gary Andre, and I'm from Hobart, and our dads knew each other and teaching. They're both teachers and educators and things. So we've known the Dockiches for a long time. So Danny's a really good friend of mine, and Ron Felling. And Ron had seen Antwaan play basketball at Thornton. They were state runner-up 3 straight years at Thornton. They had great teams, and those were fun to watch him. And he was a point guard, and they got beat by Peoria Manual 3 straight years in the state championship. But they were terrific teams to watch play. And Ron had watched him and knew he was good, and had told Coach Knight, "Hey, this kid could help us and play as well." The other guy that helped us quite a bit was Tim Knight, and Tim put Antwaan. Those were the days when the IU high school kids would go on this barnstorming, or the signees would play at different places throughout the state, and they'd play in South Bend or Fort Wayne or Indy or wherever, and they would play these charity games. And Tim saw him and really liked him, and put Antwaan on that team with the IU basketball recruits. So that helped us make it possible for Coach Knight to welcome Antwaan onto the basketball team too. So that's how we got him, and that's how he came to Indiana.